When the sun begins to rise above Los Angeles, Taylor and Ridge discover that they have arrived at a new crossroads in their lives respectively. In spite of the fact that it has been burdened by years of misunderstandings, rivalries, and sacrifices, they have renewed a relationship that has always been profound and indisputable. The couple has made the decision to follow their hearts and move forward into a future together. Yet, the question that remains is, what is the next step for the relationship? What comes to pass? The decision that Ridge and Taylor have made to get back together has not been an easy one, especially considering the looming shadow of Ridge's history with Brooke. Despite the fact that Ridge has feelings for Brooke, he is unable to deny the unique connection that he has with Taylor. This connection was not only formed through romantic feelings, but also through the ups and downs that come with being a family. Ridge has always been the love of Taylor's life, and despite the heartbreak, she has never stopped dreaming that one day they will find their way back to one another. Ridge has always been the love of her life from the beginning. Although Ridge and Taylor are making an effort to accept this new chapter, Brooke is not even close to accepting it. She is in utter disbelief as a result of Ridge's choice, and she can't help but reflect on whether or not their relationship is actually gone. She is determined to demonstrate to Ridge that their love is something that is worth fighting for, and Brooke is not yet ready to let up of the life that they have created together. Consequently, this creates the conditions for yet another love triangle, which in turn causes their families to experience emotional agony. Dealing with the family. The reunification of the couple also brings about difficulties for their children, particularly Steffi and Thomas, who have witnessed the devastation that may be caused by their parents' chaotic love life situations. Steffi is protective of her mother's happiness and skeptical of Brooke's influence. She is glad that Ridge has finally won Ridge's heart back again, and she is also wary of Brooke's influence. In contrast, Thomas is undecided on what to do. He is aware that his own connection with his father has been strained as a result of the never-ending back and forth that has occurred between Ridge and Brooke, but he expresses his desire for his parents to be happy together. Old wounds are reopened as a result of the pair's reunion, and Taylor and Ridge find themselves seeking to heal the emotional wounds that have been inflicted upon their family. It is decided that they will meet with Steffi and Thomas in order to talk about their plans and answer any concerns that have not yet been addressed. Steffi expresses her concerns, expressing her fear that Ridge may desert Taylor once more if Brooke is successful in persuading him to reverse his decision. Ridge and Taylor are both taken aback by the unfiltered honesty that emerges. Despite his upbeat attitude, Thomas is adamant that they keep a realistic perspective regarding the difficulties that lie ahead. Ridge reassures his children that he is committed to Taylor, but the wounds from the past continue to exist, which leaves a feeling of uneasiness, with love being put to the test. In the process of attempting to combine their lives, Taylor and Ridge's relationship is pushed to the test. A new home, one that does not hold the weight of Ridge's past with Brooke, is what Ridge advises they move into in order to begin a new chapter in their relationship. Despite her agreement, Taylor is cautious. In spite of the fact that she has feelings for Ridge, she is aware of the powerful attraction that exists between him and Brooke, and she is resolved to avoid falling into the same old patterns. They start looking for a new location together, one that will allow them to create new memories and provide them with a safe haven that is free from the burden of the past. Brooke, on the other hand, continues to be a continuous presence in Ridge's life and in his thoughts as they begin this new chapter in their relationship. She is adamant that she would not acknowledge the fact that Ridge is truly gone, and as a result of her suffering, she is more motivated than ever to win him back. Ridge finds himself in a predicament that is impossible to resolve. He is devoted to Taylor, yet he is unable to deny the feelings that he has ever had for Brooke. Taylor is left feeling more and more vulnerable as a result of his loyalty to both women, which pulls him in opposite directions. Taylor's increasingly uncertainty. Over the course of time, Taylor begins to become aware of a number of subtle indications that Ridge is not completely dedicated to leaving Brooke in the background. In the aftermath of getting a message from Brooke, she observes him either buried in concentration or staring at old photographs of Brooke. These seemingly insignificant deeds begin to sow the seeds of uncertainty within Taylor's heart, and she begins to question whether or not their reunion is built on a foundation that is destined to fall apart. Taylor confides in Ridge about her anxieties in an effort to preserve the happiness she has found in her life. She does not accuse him directly, but she does reveal the anguish that she had each time he went back to Brooke in the past. The fact that she is unwilling to be left in the shadows once more is made very apparent by her. Taylor continues to have reservations, despite Ridge's assurances that he is committed to this endeavor for the long run. During this vulnerable moment, their connection is strengthened, but Ridge is also forced to confront his own feelings that have not been resolved, the defiant needs of Brooke. While all is going on, Brooke is unable to contain her emotions as she watches Ridge and Taylor enjoy a future that does not include her. As a result of her desperation, she takes daring actions, reaching out to Ridge and Taylor in an effort to demonstrate to them that their connection is founded on a dream. Ridge is reminded of the life they had together, and she does so with the hope that he will recall the love they had in the past and reconsider his decision. Those who observe her are aware of her desperation. Brooke's unrelenting pursuit of Ridge is harmful in Hope's eyes, who has always appreciated her mother's ability to persevere through difficult times. By reminding Brooke that she deserves someone who will select her without any reservations and without the problems that Ridge brings, she pushes Brooke to let go of her attachment to Ridge. She is confident that Ridge is destined to be hers, and despite the fact that she listens, Brooke is not yet ready to give up on him. Do you have a familiar ending or a new beginning? Taylor and Ridge are making an effort to block away the memories of their pasts, but their rekindled love is being put to the test on a regular basis. Taylor's mental health begins to suffer as a result of Ridge's inconsistent dedication, and she starts to inquire as to whether or not she is putting herself in a position where she may experience another heartbreak. In spite of this, she is resolute in her determination to fight for the life she has dreamed of creating with Ridge, to demonstrate to both herself and to everyone else that their love is capable of withstanding the challenges that they face together. Taylor has come to the realization that despite her best attempts, she is still not free from the presence of Brooke's shadow. When Ridge is drawn back into a conversation or circumstance that involves Brooke, Taylor feels the pull of history repeating itself. This happens every time Ridge is pulled back with Brooke. She confides in Steffi, who encourages her mother to maintain her composure and insists that she should not allow Brooke's influence to compromise her happiness. During their conversation, Steffi encourages Taylor to prioritize her own needs, warning her that Ridge's decisions will ultimately expose the true nature of his emotion, a future that is uncertain. When Ridge and Taylor are confronted with these challenges, they find themselves at a crossroads in their relationship. There is a possibility that the future will bring both happiness and sadness in equal proportion. Through the presence of Brooke, Ridge's devotion to Taylor is put to the test on a daily basis. However, Taylor has acquired the ability to stand her ground and is no longer willing to be the second option. At the end of the day, Ridge is forced to face the repercussions of the choices he made in the past. Can he give his undivided attention to Taylor, leaving Brooke in the dust? Or will he find himself dragged back into the cycle of love and loss that has characterized his relationships with both of the women he has been with? At this point in time, Taylor and Ridge have chosen to follow their hearts, yet it remains to be seen whether or not their love will be able to overcome the pull of the past. As they move on, they are resolute in their intention to establish a life that is solely theirs, provided that they are able to liberate themselves from the shackles of history. When the lights are turned off in the Forrester residence, shadows appear to be longer and darker than they would normally be. In particular, this is the case in the vicinity of a mysterious new arrival named Electra, who is a fascinating figure with a complicated past. Despite the fact that Electra's every deed is shrouded in mystery, she has been able to draw the likes of the Forresters, Logans, and Spencers ever since she made her presence for the simple reason that she is so appealing. The arrival of all things new. When Electra first arrived at Forrester Creations, she was working under the guise of a well-known designer consultant. This was the case when she first entered the company, It was expected of her that she would be someone who would be able to challenge the current quo and provide a fresh point of view to the organization. She soon captured Ridge and Steffi with her ideas, and Thomas, who is known for his voracious curiosity, couldn't help but be charmed by her seductive nature. Ridge and Steffi were immediately intrigued by her ideals. On the other hand, it wasn't long before word spread throughout the community that she had a history of being involved in certain activities. Even though her qualifications were consistent, there were a few gaps in her background that even the most knowledgeable among them were unable to fill in completely. These gaps were not filled in by anyone. There were persistent reports that she was involved in high-profile fashion feuds, as well as weird incidents. These rumors continued to swirl via the media. Brooke, on the other hand, was not persuaded by Elektra's explanation that these were merely misunderstandings. In regards to the highly unusual occurrence, it was after that when the accident took place. One of Forrester's most popular shows, which also happened to be in the middle of a high-stakes fashion reveal, came dangerously close to being derailed by an accident that took place behind the scenes. Despite the fact that some individuals hypothesized that it was an act of sabotage, others referred to it as a technological error. On the other side, Brooke was unable to remove the nagging impression that Elektra had orchestrated the mayhem in some way in order to divert attention, or, even worse, to establish control. She was unable to dismiss this notion. Brooke was able to see that Elektra was looking at her with a gaze that was unsettlingly familiar, despite the fact that Ridge laughed off her anxieties. Ridge's laughter was a response to Brooke's concerns. As part of her mission to uncover the specifics of what Elektra was keeping hidden, Brooke made it her mission to conduct an investigation. Manifestation of the connections that need to be unraveled. In response to the worries that Brooke had, she decided to conduct additional research into Elektra's ties. It was during this investigation that she found a connection that was cause for concern. Elektra was once intimately associated with a rival designer who disappeared without a trace when a dispute rocked his firm. This occurred at a time when Elektra was in close proximity to the designer. In spite of the fact that there was a lack of clarity on the particulars, some sources stated that Elektra had been deeply involved in the aftermath of the incident. Is there a possibility that she was the one who was responsible for the demise of her previous relationship? Brooke, with Carter's guidance, came to the realization that Elektra was more than simply a designer consultant. This was something that Brooke discovered. The history of her involvement in industrial espionage was somewhat intricate. Shortly after her arrival, the brands with which she had been associated had losses that were questionable, and she would leave shortly after that. Her departure would occur shortly after that. Despite the fact that the pattern was unsettling, the issue that arose was, after all this time, what was she? The increasing intimacy that exists between Thomas and Elektra. Thomas, in the meantime, came to the revelation that he was attracted to Elektra in a manner that was not typical of him, that he had previously been unaware of. They were both aware of the darker side of ambition and desire, and Elektra confided in him about how she felt like an outcast and how she battled to be accepted despite the fact that she had talents. However, they also shared a common understanding of the worst side of ambition and desire. Her comments, on the other hand, were dripping with hatred, and they hinted at a grudge that had not been addressed with any explanation. While Thomas was in the process of discussing the nuances of his relationship with the Forresters, Elektra took on the role of a confidant for him. In addition to this, she subtly suggested that he was entitled to more than what he had been given, which was a method of promoting his aspirations. In spite of the fact that her remarks were able to mask her true intentions, her comments were able to stoke the fires of Thomas's worries and stir up long-simmering resentments. The question that needs to be answered is whether or not she was genuinely interested in him, or whether or not she was deliberately drawing attention to his vulnerabilities in order to play a larger game. The actual aim of Elektra in their action. The fact that Elektra harbors a very personal vendetta, one that is inextricably linked to the Forrester family, is something that only a small segment of the population is aware of. Prior to the loss of a deal with Forrester Creations, which was being run by none other than Eric and Ridge, her family's design firm had been on the cusp of achieving greatness over the course of several years. However, the contract's failure prevented them from reaching their full potential. She blamed the Forresters for destroying the hopes that her family had, despite the fact that her family had lost all they had ever owned. In order to infiltrate their culture and pull their kingdom down from the inside, she swore a solemn vow of vengeance and immediately began training herself in design and strategy. Her goal was to bring their kingdom down from within. During the time that her plan is being carried out, Elektra begins to set the Forresters against one another in order to further her interests. Steffi's anxieties over her legacy are manipulated, Ridge's pride is fueled, and Thomas is convinced that he is deserving of additional power over the situation. She accomplishes all of this by gradually planting seeds of doubt, which fuel Ridge's pride. As an additional point of interest, she is effective in capturing Eric's emotions, drawing him into her web with her visionary ideas for the future of Forrester Creations, and persuading him to consider the notion of restructuring. To form a coalition of the wicked, Elektra is not the only one who is nursing a grudge against the other. She is working with a mysterious ally from her past, a former fashion designer who has not been named and who has also been impacted by the cutthroat rivalry that prevails in the fashion industry. She is collaborating with this someone. They are working together to carry out a takeover transaction with the intention of bringing the Forrester brand to its knees and restoring the honor of her family. It is believed that this ally is either a former employee of Forrester or someone who is related to them, which makes the stakes significantly higher. This is despite the fact that the identity of this ally is still unknown. While Elektra's machinations begin to produce fruit, cracks begin to develop within Forrester Creations. This occurs at the same time. Brooke's suspicions get more severe as time goes on, and that is because each member of the family begins to question the devotion of the other members of the family. However, when she confronts Elektra, the accusations that she makes are not taken seriously by Elektra. Elektra discredits Brooke's statements by portraying herself as sincere and even hurtful. She does this in order to demonstrate that Brooke's claims are nothing more than a figment of her imagination. One of the books, Revelation, Brooke makes a finding that leads her to a treasure trove of evidence that links Elektra to the mystery rival and the collapse of her family, just as the level of tension reaches its maximum point. This discovery was made just as the tension was reaching its highest degree. When the evidence is shown to Elektra, her reaction is one of complete and utter terror. The facts are brought to Elektra's attention by her. In spite of the fact that she had previously denied it, Elektra ultimately discloses her motivation in a moment that is not guarded, as she recalls the lost legacy of her family and makes a solemn pledge that by the time she is finished, Forrester Creations would no longer exist. A frigid smile comes on her face. She also makes a solemn commitment that she will go out of business. Following the revelation that Brooke is rattled by Elektra's confession, she later finds out that she does not own any evidence that might be used to expose her. Brooke is warned by Elektra, who experiences thoughts of invulnerability, that crossing her will only result in destruction. Elektra is experiencing these feelings. At the same time as she is increasing the amount of manipulation that she uses, her presence is becoming an increasingly serious danger, not only in a professional sense, but also in a personal sense. She is resolute in her ambition to bring the Forresters to their knees. What lies ahead in the future? The dangerous game that Elektra is presently playing is in full swing, despite the fact that her secret has been partially revealed, but it is still being kept hidden from the wider Forrester family. Not only will this compel the Forresters to confront the past of their family, but it will also push them to confront the feelings that she has exacerbated within themselves. The Forresters will be tested to their breaking point as she continues to increase the number of plots she generates. There is a possibility that the terrible truth that Elektra conceals could prove to be her undoing. However, before she does so, she will first leave permanent scars on the very family that she considers responsible for the loss of her own.